What I'd like to do next is sort of give you an update and some perspectives where we are right now and where we're heading. So I'd like to kind of expound upon the theme of the conference, which let's get down to business, and talk about where I see perceptions of where the opportunities for growth, even in these times of economic hardship and political gridlock in Washington. And I think that what we're seeing here by just the attendance and presentations, as Mark said, is the widest breadth of attendees ever. And clearly from my perspective, the private sector has opened its doors for new business relationships. And the challenge to us all, now that these doors have been opened, because we spent so many years knocking on that door, is how we take this advantage of this opportunity and make it a win-win both for the industry, for our partners, contractors and builders, and more importantly for customers. And there's a new trend in the housing market that started just percolating last year, and that is the recognition of the HERS index in the housing market. And I'm proud to report that despite the fact that housing starts went from around 425,000, according to Los Angeles Times, in 2010 down to 305,000. In 2011, 120,000 new homes were energy rated and issued the HERS index. That's phenomenal because while the housing starts took the dive, continued to take the dive, the number of homes that were actually rated remained constant. This has represented 40% of all new homes sold in the United States. And I'd like to have an issue of applause for the builders who've done it and the raters who've made that possible. I think you all are going to do it. You all know this, but I think that it's good to hear from other sources. And I think it's why are builders using the HERS index? And I think the Associated Press said it best last year when it reported that home builders see one of the biggest advantages of buying a newly built home is energy efficiency. To take advantage of this opportunity, home builders are, quote, boiling energy efficiency down to something every buyer understands. And following this trend, some of the leading builders in the United States in production have all committed to marketing HERS index. You can see their logos here. We have many of them in our attending the conference and making presentations today. But I think what's even remarkable is following the lead of these leading builders, now we're seeing a trend of local and regional builders start making that same trend. And as of last week, we have 120 regional and local builders have committed to having all their homes rated and marking the HERS index, ranging in states from Arkansas, from Florida to Wisconsin. And that number keeps on growing and growing. So that is clearly, not only is the top embracing this, but now following their lead, we're seeing local builders. That's where I think you as raters come in, because it's just, to me, senseless for someone to pay for a rating and then hide it. What they need to do is start letting people know, and that's where these memorandums of understanding come in. Because what we've done since last year is we created a designation called RESNET EnergySmart Builder. And that allows them to actually signify to their customers that they are not only wise in developing sustainable homes, but that they have third-party inspections and verification that's being done. So how can a builder become a RESNET EnergySmart builder? It's relatively easy. Basically, it's enter a memorandum of understanding with RESNET and commit to having all their homes rated and marketing homes index. And the key wording of the MOU is all homes constructed by the company will be tested and inspected by a RESNET rater following RESNET standards and provided with a HERS index produced by a RESNET accredited rating software program. So we're making good progress. There's a lot to go, because the next stop is, while we're getting those labels out, we need a concerted effort working with your builder clients on educating the consumer what that means. Because the goal of this whole effort is, when we get this critical mass around, what's going to be asked when a buyer's looking at the home, whether it be new or existing, is what's the HERS index score for this home? Because once you engage in that conversation, the marketplace is going to be transformed. Because then consumers are first time really armed with a way to be able to differentiate the home that they are purchasing. But our job's not done, because clearly retrofits of the existing homes is critical. There are 107 million existing residential units in the United States. This represents 21% of US energy usage and creates 20% of the US carbon emissions. And so we're not going to be able to attack our energy security issues, our economic issues, or our environmental issues until we find a way to reduce that energy consumption of existing homes. It's economically possible now to have an existing home be at least 20 or 30% more efficient than it is currently. And I think what's most significant for policy and thinking about it is scientists say that 2050 is sort of the tipping point in the US in the world in terms of carbon, that after that, unless we mitigate our carbon consumption, things will happen that you can't repair. So with that being met, the Brookings Institute has estimated that 2/3 of all buildings that will be used in 2050 have already been built. And so this is critical, but it's also one of the hardest nuts to crack. So what RESNET is proposing is what we call the new energy efficiency industry. And what this composes is providing the total solution to homeowners. Not just pieces, not just widgets, not just programs, not just processes, but a total solution. And the fact of the recognizations that there is an infrastructure of the trades that's been around for hundreds of years that we really can't change their business model. But rather what we can do is having them start working as a team, seeing the house as a system, and recognizing what their part of the component is. So this is the RESNET approach to home performance contracting. The key linchpin of this is the independent certified rater, who performs the initial audit and test-in diagnostics and prescribes a comprehensive work scope. And then the EnergySmart contractor performs the prescribed work pertaining to their specific trade following the work scope specifications. And this is what's unique about the RESNET model, because at the end, an independent certified rater will go back into that home and ensure that the job was done, test out, also do calculations of how much energy has been saved in that home, and it's a third party. It's not a contractor said I did it, but it's a third party doing that. And I think that's critical, because when you look at it, even though there's utility rebates out there, it's the consumer who's putting the money down. It's their hard-earned dollars. And so I think they have the right to say, was it having a person to come in and says, was that job done right? And I think that's the linchpin of RESNET's orientation to a comprehensive retrofits. Over the past year and a half, we've had a wide group of organizations that have endorsed and support the RESNET EnergySmart contract standards, all the way from the National Association of Remodeling Industry, NATE, ACA, all the way down. And that group continues to increase. And I think we're forging the foundations for you, raters, to start developing working relationships with their contractors at the local level. So I've been in this field for a while, and I have some perspectives on how we as an industry and our strategic allies can shape the future. And the first one is using the progress achieved as a foundation to branch out to allies in your markets and offer total solutions to the consumer. And changing the way we talk. We're all energy geeks, so we love to talk about million BTUs per square foot, processes, programs, but people don't understand that. That doesn't mean anything in their lives. What they need is to offer, we need to do is offer consumer benefits, solutions, not products or processes. And the most important is we need multiple paths and business models. This market is so big, 107 residential homes, that no single size fits all, no single business plan works for everyone. Americans demand choice. TV, we have 500 and some channels. If you're a sports nut, you used to have 10 different channels. I think that that's healthy. But I think what we do and what we're going to concentrate is make our underlying standards consistent, so it means the same thing. So I think we have a lot to be proud of despite these economic times. The number of certified raters and accredited rating providers has continued to grow in 2011. This is a map of rating companies around the United States, and I'm proud to say it's beginning to look like an AT&T service map. The most insignificant trend I think that's been here, that's taken place in 2011, that's going to have long-reaching effects, is that RESNET's been accredited by the American National Standard Institute, commonly called ANSI, as a standard development organization. So we are going to be going through the process of coming out with ANSI standards for the rating of a home, the software calculations, and a national label. There's going to be a session on this later today. And I want to recognize we have, the RESNET board has appointed a standards management board, and I think this deserves special recognition. Philip Ferry of the Florida Energy Center serves as chairman. Wes Davis from ACCA, Brett Dillon from IBS Advisors, a rater, David Goldstein from RDC, and Jim Peterson of the Pulte Group. The other thing is an effort to try to educate consumers what this HERS index means. We have posted on our consumer page an interactive HERS index tool. Whereas if you move the rating score, it will show you the impact in terms of dollars, the impact of carbon savings, and will show you an estimated savings of that home compared to an existing resale home. What we're trying to make it easy to explain to a consumer what this means. And what the invitation is, play with this, and then feel free to link it on your websites, because we have to stake the process of educating consumers what this makes, and it's got to be simple. Going to that morasses of what's called political and policy, I think it's important to share with you the 2012 legislative goals for RESNET. And they're relatively small and focused. The first one is we absolutely need enactment of legislation to reform and address the appraisal and mortgage financing. What we're doing now is just insane. The highest cost of home ownership is ignored in the process. We're never going to have progress in this country unless there's a sustainable way and a rational way to take energy efficiency in the mortgage process. And I want to recognize the leadership of the leading builders of America for coming up with what they call the SAVE Act. I think it's vital for the economic interest of this country, for the mortgage industry, for the builders and consumers, that we get Congress to pass this legislation. There will be a session on that today, this week. The other thing is we're dreaming about a 3-year extension to $2,000 energy efficient homes tax credit, what they call in Washington is 45L. This is a tax credit that has worked. In the last year of the tax credit, approximately 21,000 homes qualified for the tax credit, which represented 10% of all new homes built. I and David Goldstein spent a lot of time in Washington trying to put this out, and I know there was a lot of naysayers who said no one could build homes 50% more efficient than code. As a matter of fact, when the Legislative Council Budget Committee rated this, they estimated only 25 homes in the United States could qualify for the tax credit. Remember that, David? 10%. That tax credit has expired. It's mired in that political mess in Washington. There is going to be an effort, what we call the extenders. We got to educate our Congress people why this tax credit is important, it's effective, and it is a good use of public funds because there's accountability behind it. The other one is we need enactment of a performance-based credit for homeowners to improve the existing homes. And that also reflects the improved HERS index. There is a bill right now, sponsored, a bipartisan bill in the Senate, sponsored by Olympia Snowe, a Republican from Maine, and Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat from my state of California. We need a rational way that rewards consumers based upon the actual performance of how much percentile they reduced energy efficiency and actually ensuring that it was done. So you also need we need to get this act passed. Then finally, I think this is really exciting for me, and that is enactment of legislation to finance home energy improvements of rural electric co-op members through on-bill financing. In other words, you go to your co-op, you get the money to make your improvements, and then you pay for those improvements through a surcharge on your utility bill. On-bill financing works. It avoids many of the past problems we had with PACE, and we're seeing in states it's happening. There will be a session today from the National Association of Rural Electric Co-ops that's going to talk about this proposed legislation. It's been introduced in Congress. We need this enactment. But I'm a policy wonk. I love this stuff. I'm a political junkie. But I think an important thing we got to do is that we cannot become dependent as an industry on government largesse. The building performance industry should be in it for the long haul. Hence, should not become dependent on government funding or programs. Because I found in my long career, I'm a recovering bureaucrat, and I found out what the government giveth, the government can taketh away. Without political winds change, people in power change, and we just can't afford to live at the whims of government. And what we need, really, in terms of the government to help us, is affordable and sustainable way for consumer to make sound economic decisions. So the government does have a role in addressing these barriers, but should not be the driver, because only through the marketplace can we become sustainable. And again, I would submit by the composition of this audience is that the private sector is ready. So let's get down to business. And so this is what I'm challenging the people in this room. While embracing the progress achieved to date and the importance of sound policy, we need to focus on the marketplace. And the key to this is teaming up with builders and contractors and product suppliers to offer total building performance solutions to consumers. And so what I'm proposing that we do now is that now there's a need to develop the dynamic partnerships between RESNET professionals and our strategic allies at the local level. You need to educate retrofit program sponsors of the new opportunities and bringing new customers to their programs. We've lost 2 pioneers over the past year in this industry. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize the passing and the contributions of Bruce Goh from the Canadian Residential Energy Services Network and Sabrato Chandra, who passed away this year. They were truly pioneers. They'll be sorely missed, so let's give a moment of silence and reflect our thanks to Sabrato and Bruce. Okay, so I'm urging you to make plans to attend the 2013 RESNET Conference. It's going to be Orlando. And I'm excited by it because it's going to be taking place in conjunction with the International Indoor Environment Energy Efficiency Trade Show. We're collating this year with the American Air Conditioning Contractors Association of America and the Indoor Air Quality Session. This will be a unique opportunity to meet your peers in these other trades and forge these relationships that I've been talking about. And then my final pitch is, RESNET members, we need you. You need to vote on the bylaws amendment. As you notice when you're registered, we have electronic balloting. We need to make a quorum to make these needed amendments to our bylaws. We are out of compliance with state law. So if you want RESNET around, we need to hit these bylaw changes. So with that, thank you very much.